Hello and welcome to the MAKEthrough.studio podcast. My name is Danny Champion and I'm your host on today's show. It's season 3, it's episode 2, and I've got another beautiful, disruptive creator on. This time it's a performance artist in the shape of Miss Alexandra Cook. She uses her voice in various different ways, mostly to tell stories and sound wonderful and beautiful. So let's just get into it, shall we? But before we do that, I just want to shout out the MAKEthrough app. You can go and get that right now for Apple devices. It's available to download in the App Store. As I'm speaking, as I'm talking to you right now, you can go and get that from the App Store. If you've got an Apple device, go and download the MAKEthrough app, build yourself a profile, build yourself a creative project in there, and then go ahead and find your collaborators. Scroll through numerous like-minded individuals, people just like you, very creative, kind of disruptive, bit of an attitude, you know, bit of an anomaly, like waiting for their big break, waiting for their breakthrough. They haven't had that yet, so they're going to force it and they're going to have a MAKEthrough via the app. They're going to download it, they're going to build a profile, they're going to build a project, and they're going to go ahead and find their tribe. As I'm talking right now, I'm so very excited as well. We're very, very close indeed to having a version for Android devices, so we can get those Android peeps. Those, how would you describe those guys? I guess they're just, I don't know, they're a bit more hacky, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? But whatever they are, whatever you Android people are, there's very nearly an app that you can download. That's going to be amazing. So as I'm talking, anyway, very close to it being ready to download, but maybe it already is. Maybe you're listening back to this at some point in the future and you can go ahead and download that now for your Android device as well. But what I would say is go and have a look for it. Go and have a look for the MAKEthrough app. If it's there, get it. You know what I mean? Use it. Love it. If it ain't, just wait and it will be ready soon. Alright, cool. Alright, let's get into it. Alexandra Cook, take it away. So I'm here with another very special guest. I'm very excited to have this guest on. So without further ado, mystery guest, please could you just introduce yourself for our audience? Just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do and what you're about.
Of course. I'm Alexandra and Alexandra Cook, and I'm a performer. I was going to say an actor, but I still do a little bit of dancing and singing sometimes too. So predominantly actor, but yeah, performer too. Sometimes I write. I haven't made anything fully yet, but I've got lots of ideas writing. But I started more in theatre, and then over the last couple of years I've gone more into screen work, and that is me. Actually, I've started doing a little bit of voiceover too, which I mentioned to you before when we first met. But yeah, that's me.
Sure. Okay, interesting. And what's the ultimate goal? Like, what's the dream job? What's your ideal scenario? Like, where are you headed? Where do you want to be in 5 years, 10 years? Do you think about life in that way or not really?
Gosh, I'm so bad at answering this question. I actually... I kind of got told off the other day by a stranger. I actually don't even know their name, but I was in a pub and they asked me the same question and they were not happy with my response. They were really trying to get me to answer in the way they wanted. Right. And I got really angry. I don't really get angry, but I got really angry. Basically, I don't think I have a set goal. I think I definitely used to when I was in training and maybe when I've been asked to think about it before. But now I do so many different things that I don't really know what's coming next ever, really. And I think for me, I find it fun, the not knowing, and exciting. Obviously, maybe at some point I'd like to know and have control and know what money's coming in. But the dream job is something where I can still be creative and get paid for it and work with great people, which sounds so wanky, and I'm sorry to not have a set thing. But yeah, that's my answer.
Is that happening now? Is that your experience in the here and now? Are you just being present and enjoying what's going on around you?
That's the ideal, yeah. I'm not always as good at being able to do that. I don't think anyone is. You know, if I've got not much coming up, then I'm thinking, I need to sort this, I need to do that. But I try to, yes. And just working with great people, I think that often also makes the job more sometimes than the actual work is the people you're working with.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, what we like to do here on the podcast is invite beautiful people like yourself, creators of any kind, to come on and talk about 5 major sources of inspiration in their lives. I've got your list here, and what a wonderful list it is. I've got your first point, so let's get into it. I've got here, as written, friends and family, and you say a little bit of detail as well, because they keep me grounded, help me see reality, and help me have fun. Yeah. So help me understand that a bit more. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, I think in recent years, mainly actually in the past year, I've realised that I'm just a much better creative when I'm good as myself, because so much of our work is us, and especially when you're self-employed and it's your own business. And I've been so lucky, especially my parents. I used to dance a lot as a child and they used to support me all the time, so which is such a classic statement, but it's true. did I say grounded? They do. I think they just, sometimes we can get wrapped up in the industry. And I definitely used to find that when I was maybe more tailored to musical theatre, because that's what I initially studied in. It's very easy to get wrapped up and that work can become everything. And it actually sometimes isn't as big a deal as maybe it seems. They're very good at distracting me and just having a good time. And my friends are very good at taking the mick of me. And lots of them don't actually do creative work. So I'm very lucky to be friends with people from school still. And they have normal jobs and nice money and are very intelligent. So they never have the same issues as me, which I think is always nice to realise that the bigger picture.
So is it just you? Any siblings?
No, it's just me.
Okay. So did your parents have any expectations for you in this field? Would you say that they put any pressure on you?
Oh, no.
Oh, right.
No, I think they just wanted to support me and they were quite older parents, so just wanted me to be happy. They did, my mum really wanted me to work hard at school and things, but I managed to turn her around a little bit when she saw how much I enjoyed performing.
Okay, so she was keen on a certain amount of security in your future.
Yeah, massively. And I think both my parents, they're not performers. I mean, my dad loves to read out descriptions on food packaging as if he's like on MasterChef, but they're not in any way really creative.
Right.
So
but it's come from somewhere, right?
Yeah. They love theatre and they, in their different ways, love music as well. And my grandma on my dad's side used to love the same thing. So I think the love comes from somewhere, but they just supported me. Apparently I asked to go to dance class and they said, okay, and didn't realise quite how tied in they'd be for 15 years or something. So yeah.
You mentioned your grandmother as well.
Yeah.
Did you have a relationship with her? Were you able to share any of this with her at all?
Sadly not, no, but I do have a collection of her programmes that she had when she went to the theatre sort of into London and they lived in the countryside and she'd write on them the date. I can't remember what year they are, but they must be sort of 50s, 40s, 50s, probably more 50s, and who she went with. And I've got those, but sadly not because she died when I was quite young.
Oh, I'm sorry. Something you mentioned there as well, I was interested in. You say you're lucky enough to have friends with normal jobs, and I just wonder what kind of perspective can be gleaned from that. Like, do you see yourself as being fortunate? Do you envy a more inverted commas normal life at any point, or like what does that insight help you with?
I definitely think I used to. Basically, I started work just before COVID, so it's been a bit chaotic couple of years and finally finding my feet now. But I think there was definitely a point where I thought that actually having that stability and security and knowing what you want to do every day. But I've been lucky to find regular enough work.
I guess juxtaposition your job and what you do versus your friend group and what they do.
Yeah. I don't think I could do that anymore. I've got fingers in lots of pies, and maybe that's not necessarily a good thing for some people, but for me, that seems to give me the most joy and inspiration myself and focus. So I don't think I could go to the same space every day, maybe for a year or for a shorter contract. But for me, this is the way that works best. Being freelance, I might not say that in 10 years' time, but for now it is, yeah.
Okay, cool. Got it. And that's a nice segue into your next point on the list, actually, having your fingers in many different pies.
Oh, yes, I did say that, didn't I? Variety.
Yeah, that's right. I've got here point number 2 on your list. Variety of work, which keeps you interested and helps you flex different muscles.
Yeah.
So tell me about the variety of work that you're dealing with. How big is that range? And have you got a sweet spot in there somewhere? Have you got like a favourite area that you like to deal with?
It's kind of happened a little bit unintentionally, but it definitely seems to be where I'm happiest. And also it's helpful because then at different periods of time, so I still dance a little bit. I was explaining to you before that I do gig work, which is 1920s Charleston, and we perform and then sometimes we teach them the guests a lesson. So they're normally for parties, and at Christmas they become really popular. So that's kind of when other work dies down a little bit. So it's actually, in terms of that, works out really well. But apart from that, a lot more of the stuff has been acting and storytelling based. It's just in a variety of places and different scales.
Fine. Okay. So it's all kind of under the umbrella of dance and performance and creativity, but you feel as though there are very specific nuances in there, right? And each might feel slightly different and perhaps takes a different toll on you physically. Have you had to learn anything new? Is there a type of subsection of what you do that's more complicated or dangerous or or that you'd like to explore that you haven't yet?
Yeah, I've just started doing voiceover, which is very new to me. I always wanted to, and I love reading stories to my little cousins, bedtime stories, and I always used to get told that was something that people said, oh, you should read stories, you should do voiceover, or someone told me I should read the news, but I haven't done that yet. I get too sad. But yeah, I have had to learn all that kind of recording yourself, editing, but that is still very much a learning curve. We are always evolving, as technology is too.
Okay, a couple of things there. So you're reading stories to younger family members or whatever,
Yeah.
and you've noticed, or they have, or someone else has noticed that there's a certain amount of performance going on there.
Yeah.
And did that just feel natural to you? Was that something that you indulged? Were you aware of it in the moment, or did you feel special because of it? Like,
Yeah.
were you aware of how interesting that was while it was happening?
I knew I was enjoying it, but I think it was also the response from other people that I could tell my cousins like that too. And I always loved that as a child. I just loved stories and telling stories and reading them. So being able to bring that to life is very fun. And I just recently did an audiobook
Wow.
and I had to do lots of different characters, which was fun to find them and use lots of different voices. It was interesting when they said for me to do a Scottish accent. I had to delete that bit. That's something I'll write that down. I need to practice.
Okay, wow. So are you able to talk about that a bit more? Like, what's
Yeah.
the audiobook called? And
Yeah.
also, like, where can we find it? What is that thing?
Yeah, sorry. Did you have another part of the question?
No, I was just also curious, like that accent change and the character change as well is enormous to me and really interesting. And I'm just sort of curious about various different things there, like what your process is. Are you going into that one take and reading line for line different characters and transitioning in the moment? Or are you breaking it, performing one character, splicing it together? Like, and were you sort of in charge of character production and editing yourself and trying different versions? And like, how much control did you have?
Yeah.
Like, that's fascinating.
Yeah, so this is actually, it's through Amazon on Audible, which, I mean, we all have our own opinions and things, but I would prefer it to be more independent, but I'm
Sure.
just starting out. So we have to start somewhere.
Okay, and how did you use anything to help you find and place those characters as they were happening? Like, did you have props or hats, or did you change your posture, or how did you manage the changes there?
Yes, so actually completely recording, editing myself remotely. I think the files sound quite different on the Audible app to they do on my computer. So I don't know what happened there. But yes, so I've done some more voiceover, which has been kind of very short form and where you're working with other people and they say, try it like this and try it like that. And then going through line by line kind of thing. But for this, it was just me. I'd send over a section and see what they thought. And then I kind of got feedback and had an idea of what they wanted. But it was quite a long process. And I would normally record, I would do a short section at a time and kind of practice it before recording as if I was just speaking it on stage or something where I'd have to do it. And obviously I'd stop between sections of characters. And sometimes I did forget, what did that sound like? So I'd have to go back and find it. So I did it more through the narrative rather than individual characters at a time. But I don't know which would have been better in the end, actually. But it worked. Did have a little list from the author who wrote the book of sort of what they would like and what they had in their head. But it was quite an imaginary fantasy book. It still feels very human and you can place it, but it's in its own world. So I had a bit of freedom with that. And it didn't have to be, say, in a set place. The name of the place is completely made up. So it could be any accent you wanted. I probably used a lot of facial expressions, but it's quite freeing because no one can see that. And you haven't got a camera where you've got space and things. So it was mainly in my head, but I think I'm very visual. So I was picturing what I think they'd look like and how they'd act physically. So hopefully that came out in my voice.
I'm sure. Do you think you can hear facial expressions as well? I think you can hear a smile, right? Which is interesting.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's interesting to me as well. You mentioned that you've done this voiceover work, and obviously what we're doing here requires a certain amount of, it's not performance as such, but there's an awareness where you're talking to something bigger than you and I having a conversation. You've sort of got to edit yourself in real time and think about intonation and, character and emphasis and storytelling. And all of that is fairly alien to me, actually, but it's a really beautiful place to live in because it's sort of minute to minute improvisation, isn't it? I feel like you don't know that it's right, except that you know exactly when it is right when you see it or when you hear it. I don't know. Does any of that feel...
I wouldn't know that. You do that amazingly. I'm very impressed. I wouldn't know that.
Very sweet. Okay. I mean, like, does any of that feel feel true, like in the sort of voiceover work that you do and the amount of storytelling that's required? Does it feel fulfilling to you? Does it feel creative enough? And where would you like to go with it? Would you ever consider writing material that you might perform?
Yeah, it's funny because I find that creative and I feel like I can still have my own stamp on it. But it's potentially because I came from a very musical theatre background where everything is set and they have a very set idea of things, and you have the song and you have the dance and you have to make it work. So I find lots of things that maybe others don't find freeing and creative that I still felt like I had places to explore. And maybe because I was working more remotely with the author. But I have thought about that because I do write, but I haven't made anything fully yet. But I definitely think that's something I would love to do, and be able to record something that you have a vision for and can really picture. So,
Yeah, I see that in you, actually. I think I'd love to hear something that you'd written that you performed.
Right, well, I have to actually do it now. That is the problem.
Well, I back that. I'd love to hear it. Is there anything else on that before we move on?
That would be my 5 years. I'll get back to you in 5 years' time. There we are.
Okay, fine. Is there anything else on variety? Things that keep you interested in flexing different muscles? Is there anything else there? Do you think it's important to push yourself outside your comfort zone?
Trying to think. I definitely used to get quite settled in a comfort zone, and I probably am doing the same now. But I do try to push it sometimes. That's like the writing. I should do that. And I know I should, but it's a bit scary. And I keep saying I will one day, but I should just do it now. But I think it is good because unless I just put myself out there with the voiceover work, I potentially would never have done it. And that's something I always thought I wanted to do anyway. So I'm making lots of mental notes of things I need to be doing. Thank you.
No, that's cool. Just as well, like I found for me, if I ever try and create something or write something, I find that finding someone to work with and then walk with, if you can walk with someone and just walk and talk and record ideas, I find that's a really nice way to start writing something.
Yeah, I used to do that, but I just walk on my own and pretend I was on the phone and just be recording myself. So it didn't look too crazy. That was definitely a sort of lockdown time where I needed help. Yeah, okay.
Moderately crazy. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that working. Okay, well, look, let's move on to point number 3 on your list.
I'm just going to jump in here and talk about the MAKEthrough app for a couple of seconds. You can download that now for Apple devices. You can go to the App Store, download the MAKEthrough app for your Apple device, build yourself a profile, build yourself a creative project, and then go ahead and find your collaborators. Scroll through numerous like-minded individuals just like you, people, you know, slightly creative, slightly weird, slightly interested and curious in the world in different ways. People that want to change the world with their ideas. You can find your people on the MAKEthrough app. You can download it right now for Apple devices. And as I'm talking, as I said at the top of the show, we've almost got one ready for Android devices as well. Fancy that. Proper, you know, it's like an app that you can, if you've got an Android device, you can go ahead and download that. You might be able to do it now. It's so close to being ready. Like I'm just tearing my hair out trying to get it done, working really hard on it, really, really proud of it. But as soon as it's there, like I say, if you're a creator, if you're an artist of any kind, go ahead and download that app, build yourself a profile, build yourself a project. You know, it might be a book or a play or an album, or you might be restoring a car, or you might be building a model or trying to shoot a film or something. And you need some homies, you know, you need to find your people. You need some collaborators, you need some visual effects artists, or you need a drummer for your band, or you want some advice. You're trying to open a little food truck and you want some, I don't know, you want some new recipes, or you want some graphics, or you want to talk about your branding or whatever. Go on there, build a little project, find your people that can help you out, and then basically have the time of your life. Do you know what I mean? Live the life you really want, all because of this app. Greatest app in the world, in my opinion. But anyway, look, that's enough of this selling nonsense. You know what I mean? Let's get back to Alexandra. I think she might be talking about accents at this point. I can't remember what she was talking about at this point in the show, but she might be talking about accents. Let's see what I can do with my voice, actually. What can I do? Let's have a think. I mean, I could probably do a Welsh cow. You ready? Here's my Welsh cow. Moo. Alright, what about, let's see if I can do another cow from Northern Ireland. Alright, ready? Moo. Incredible. Let's see if I can do one more before I throw it back. We'll go back to the studio in a minute. Let's see if I can just do one more. So we're going to do a Scottish cow. You ready? Scottish cow. I've got a prep. Scottish cow. You ready? Moo! Alright, back to the studio. Okay, well, look, let's move on to point number 3 on your list. I've got here...
Ooh, I don't know what it is.
Space to observe, which allows your mind to wander. So tell me about that. What are you observing? What kind of space are we talking about? Is it people watching? Are you consuming?
Very ominous, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Just tell me about that. What does that mean to you?
Sure. So, I mean, I keep talking about, I used to feel like this, but I feel like I had a massive change in the last year and a half. My priorities priorities are different now to what they used to be. And I used to be very obsessed, and I just wanted to work hard and do as much as I could. And I loved it, but I never really gave myself a break or time off or chance to explore other things that in their own way in a positive way, affect your creativity and ability to give more things to your work. So just giving myself space away from work, allowing myself to have that time. And I think because I'm self-employed and at the moment don't have an agent, so it's just me sending emails, doing all my own everything. So allowing myself that time off and whatever that is.
No, I mean, that's fascinating. So a couple of things you mentioned there. You say a massive change, and is that change you're talking about, is that giving yourself time to not be working and so that you can fill yourself up with stuff that you can then use to be creative with? Is that the change you're talking about?
Just space to observe and actually let things digest, whether that be watching something or on the train and looking out the window, which I know is so basic, but you notice things or see things.
Yeah, like I say, I think for me it's that you have to fill yourself up, whether it's with literature or some kind of content or people watching, or like you're saying, having space to think into on a train, just having that time, rewarding yourself with that time to reflect and prepare. I think it's just worth its weight. And I personally couldn't be creative without it. You
Oh,
certainly...
yeah. Well, I'm very good at that. I'm very good at daydreaming.
Do you find that if you don't do that, you very quickly burn out and just aren't able to have ideas and be creative?
Yeah, completely. And I can see the benefit. Just I'm a lot more relaxed. And obviously there's times when I'm not, but in general, and I can put that into my work, and then I'm more adaptable and things. And
yeah, for sure. And then let's say you're in a scenario where you're struggling and you haven't had that time and you are busy and you need to be busy. There's a deadline, there's a show, there's something happening, and it's a bunch of nights in a row or something like that. You're away from home. Do you have any sort of coping mechanisms? Do you feel like you know how to deal with that? If you need that sort of space to think and observe and you're not getting it, do you know how to manage
I
that?
think it makes sense actually to me now when people say that actors have to live their life a bit and experience stuff to be then able to put it back into their work. When I was younger, I didn't really understand that. And now it makes sense because you've maybe been through something or can relate to a text more or a character. I think I will still craft out a little bit of time for that. Or sometimes it's just actually just sleeping if you can. And if there's not time to take space out to maybe do something else specific. But it's really dependent actually for me. Maybe this is why I do so many different things, but I do go through phases of what seems to work and what seems to help me at that point. So at the moment I've become really quite obsessed with reading and really enjoying that. So that seems to be the thing that's working, but it might be different in 2 months' time.
Very cool. What are you reading at the moment?
Well, I just finished Animal Farm, George Orwell. Very little because I went away so I could take it with me. I'm trying to read some classic books that I've heard of, kind of know a bit about, but not actually read myself.
The all-time classics, yeah, for sure. Me too. Okay, well, there we have it. Space to observe. I absolutely depend on it myself. Allow your mind to wander, I think, is incredibly important as well.
Yeah.
Discovery, curiosity, internal discovery and curiosity, I think, as well. And having time and capacity to spend on that is absolutely vital, I think, in terms of the pursuit of ongoing creativity. But that might lend itself nicely to point number 4 on the list.
Just realised it has me out. They're not very different, but
No, it's cool. That's fine. I've got here childhood hobbies, finding the fun and the freedom, and to not be perfect. So tell me a bit about that, childhood hobbies.
Yeah, well, that was reading was definitely one of them. So great work there. I didn't mean to mention that, but we did. I think I just went through a phase, which I understand. When I was in training, I really gave everything I could, sort of even out of my training time, which was very intense anyway. But I'd come from a place where I was at normal school and doing A-levels and GCSEs and that kind of thing, and doing all of my performing as hobbies. These are not the childhood hobbies I'm talking about, and we'll get to that. So then I had this opportunity, and so I gave everything and kind of ignored everything else I used to love, which sometimes you have to do that to focus on things. And I wouldn't have been maybe in the place I am now as an actor if I hadn't done that. But I realised during COVID that I didn't really do much else apart from performing. I did see friends, like I said before. I've got lovely friends and family and I'm super close to them. Apart from that, I thought, I used to love all these different things, reading and writing, and I haven't done as much art and creative stuff as I'd like, sewing and things, but maybe one day. So finding that again and just being a normal person that does a variety of things, and you don't have to do them as your job and you don't have to be great at them. You can still do it just for enjoyment.
So it seems like that's important, like taking the pressure off.
Yeah.
You're not trying to be a professional sewer. You're just trying
Yeah.
to do a thing. You're trying to, it's relief, isn't it? I think it's a sort of separation.
Yeah, I think so. And maybe that's because my hobby then became my job, because it was never necessarily something, if I'd have gone into a subject, I might have viewed it differently. But I think maybe I've only just realised that. Maybe that's why.
Okay, interesting. Do you revisit that? Or is it nostalgic? Are you remembering those hobbies that you used to have and trying to recapture that feeling? Or are you trying to actually have a hobby now that sort of has a useful mechanism in your life in so much as you can use it to not feel pressure and not feel professional or trapped in any way?
Yeah. I think I maybe don't enjoy the same thing as I did as a child,
Okay.
but it's just those things that I used to love that I lost along the way. I used to love swimming as well, and I don't do it as much as I'd like, but I do dip in and out of the pool, the swimming, which I think just allowing myself to do that it's okay. It's the same as the other point, taking time off, but I think it's the same thing where I'm self-employed, that I feel like I used to feel like if I'm not doing it all the time, it's not going to happen. But actually, you can live your life as well, and finding those things that I used to love, and maybe there's other things that I enjoy now as well.
Yeah, interesting. So I think what is intriguing for me is like, that's a pretty blank canvas, isn't it? Hobbies. There's so many things that I would like to try, but I just probably won't ever spend any time on, which is really upsetting, actually.
Yeah, I know, but then I've started trying. I'm not good at any of them because now I've got lots of things I like to do. I learned how to play chess, that kind of thing. I've lost my streak, but last year I did a bit of Duolingo, did some French, just actually doing some things. That's what it was. I thought, I'd love to do that. Why don't you just do it? Like, what is actually stopping you from doing those things?
Cool. Is there something you want to get to now? Like, is there something that you have been wanting to try or perhaps a bit scared of, or something you've been thinking about or promising yourself?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I did. Oh gosh, I just can't believe I'm going to talk about it. No, I don't need to talk about that. I did do paddleboarding. Is it paddleboarding recently? Yeah, earlier in the year for the first time. This was very luckily for a job, for an ad, and thought, wow, this was really fun. So that's something I'd like to do. But now it's cold. I think I'm okay. I think I'll wait till the spring.
Yeah, okay. Paddleboarding. So where were you when you were doing that?
This is what I didn't want to say. Basically, it's the coolest job I'll ever probably do, but I have to be a bit careful as well, actually. I'll tell you why later. No, it's fine. It's fine. Basically, I got to go to the Maldives and film an advert.
Wow.
Yeah, so casual. Yeah, there you are. I've said it now.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for saying things about that are non-specific and don't cross any lines at all. Very interesting. Thank you very much. Okay, cool. So I look forward to seeing that. But is there anything else on that before we move on? Childhood hobbies, finding the fun and the freedom, and to not be perfect. Is there anything sort of to conclude that point?
I might be. I'll probably listen to this back and think, you should have said this.
Is that something you do as well? Do you beat yourself up a little bit, like the work that you've done? Are you self-critical, hypercritical about your stuff? Do you listen to your own stuff back or watch performances?
No, I don't think it's necessarily critical. I think it's just, in this sense, you could ask me these questions and they'd probably be kind of similar, but I'd end up talking about something different if it was tomorrow. I'm not very specific and set on things. Like you said, what's your goal in 5 years' time? And it's the same kind of thing. I don't necessarily have set ideas and set specifics, but I've got about 200 things. So yeah, I'll probably listen to it back and think, oh, maybe for today I'd say this, but when I recorded it I didn't. So yeah, it's less critical now. It's more just there's lots of options of things to say.
Got it. Okay, cool. All right then, well, let's move on to the final point on your list. I've got here, I like this one actually.
This is
Animals and nature, which gives you clarity. It allows you to see the bigger picture and find truth. So animals and nature, just tell me about that for you. What does that mean? How do you visualize that when I say that? And what were you thinking when you wrote it in this list?
Yeah.
Tell me about that, animals and nature.
Yeah, I I guess it's a classic, isn't it? In lockdown, I really reconnected and just went on walks, which I used to do on a Christmas Day with my family,
Yeah.
or go to somewhere specific to go for a walk. But I wouldn't just go for a walk for the purpose of walking. And I'm very lucky in where my parents live, where I was during lockdown, that it's very close to lots of fields and nature, and it just made me much calmer, peaceful, all that that everybody says. But also that, gosh, I'm going to sound so embarrassing, and I'm not even going to know any technical terms, but when nature goes through seasons and goes through different timings, gosh, not great at science. That still goes on even when all the issues happen in the world. And it happened, I thought about it the other day, and I'm in a very privileged position compared to lots of things that are happening in the world right now. But all of that still happens, even when everything else is going on. And I think it's, when I said the bigger picture, it just reminded me that, we're really an animal. And when I'm worrying about things that maybe don't need to be worried about, it's okay. And things keep going and everything still goes on. And it's just beautiful, isn't it? I love looking at the different seasons of trees, and the autumn leaves are all fallen now, and today it was really blue skies and crisp. I thought, oh, haven't seen this in a while, which was quite exciting.
Totally understand that. I don't know if you're watching, as we're recording now, Planet Earth 3 has been on a Sunday afternoon, and beautiful as ever, beautifully put together, beautifully filmed.
Yeah, they're just incredible, aren't they? The footage is
Astonishing.
amazing. That's not even enough to say, is it? That word is not, there's no words enough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what you're saying, like, as I'm watching that, there are little scenarios where there's this like really peculiar like bug, and it's having this little, I don't know, problem with another different type of bug, and that stuff's going on out there. They don't care about politics or money or ego. I understand where that perspective comes from when you sort of get some distance from all the shit that you sort of pile pressure on yourself for day to day,
Yeah.
and then you sort of realize that that's not the be all and end all. Actually, there's a whole other universe of potential and ideas to be had. Having space and time to honor that perspective and extract the value from it, I think is really powerful. So I sort of understand that completely. Also, like deep water as well, like that stuff's just going on down there. You don't even see it. It really is baffling to me. That's happening now as we speak.
It's crazy, isn't it? Really?
So, there really is. There really is so much
I
happening.
hadn't even really thought of that. Mine was more countryside and things, but there's so much happening. Yeah.
Okay, so like you're bringing it back to your stuff. So like when you say countryside-ish, you appreciate the seasonal change and how that perhaps has an effect on your mood and the way things feel. Was your home like? Where did you grow up, by the way?
In Talbot City.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. Yeah, so very, very lucky, very privileged. And I was close enough to, it's a very small city,
All right.
but close enough to the city, but also near nature. And then it's not very far from London either. So
Yeah, got it. Really beautiful spot, actually. And are there animals in your life? Were animals around growing up? And have you ever fell in love with a horse, for example? Like, I mean, relationships with animals can be really heartbreaking.
my cousins are they have lots of horses and they're very good, but I was not very good. So no, I mean, I'm sure I could fall in love with a horse, but that didn't happen. I was quite scared and would maybe like to watch them ride. But actually, no, I very recently, it's coming up 2 years, adopted some kittens, and they're technically my parents, but I found them. So it's a very recent thing. Lots of friends had pets and I just didn't. I think my parents had a cat when I was really little, and then she sadly died. And it's I think it's hard, isn't it? Some people then straight away get another pet, but my parents didn't. And so that's definitely a new thing for me. And my boyfriend his parents have 3 dogs, and I've fallen in love with them, and getting a chance to spend time with them it's really lovely. And it's the same kind of thing. It just reminds me that there's always other stuff going on. My cats just run around outside all day and they're so happy, or they sleep or they eat, and I think, oh yeah, I could do that too. And obviously I have to have money and everything, but
Yeah, like leaving the house. If you know a cat and you live with a cat and you leave the house and you're going to work and you're stressed and you've got your little packed lunch box and you've got your layers on because it's freezing cold and you're stressed about the meeting you've got, and you look over at the cat, you throw a glance at the cat and the cat is just laid out on the couch, could not care less, looks at you like, whatever, shut that door, it's cold.
yeah, my dad would really love to come back as one of our cats. He'd really
Right.
Yeah, he said, I think I should do that instead.
I mean, just being around that attitude is, I think, really beautiful and valuable. And saying goodbye to animals is really heartbreaking as well. about animals that are maybe, lived in a few different countries and stuff like that
wow.
and fallen in love with animals in different places and then come home and had to leave.
Yeah.
So they were healthy, there's nothing wrong with them, and they were in a really good place, but had to say goodbye. And they don't know what's going on. Like, I guess it felt like there was an instinct. Maybe there was a sort of natural inclination of something was happening. I could certainly feel that, but they don't know what's happening. But you're kind of saying goodbye. But it's a really heartbreaking relationship, especially the one that I'm thinking of with a dog called Molly, a beautiful golden lab named Molly. Had to say goodbye to her. Yeah, it was desperately hard to do that.
It's crazy, isn't it? How much you can connect with another animal that you can't speak to and maybe doesn't process things in the same way, but you still have so much experience together.
Yeah, she was my daughter, I think.
Yeah.
She was family.
Oh, yeah, I can't imagine.
Yeah. So, okay, so these dogs...
I'm going to be awful
the dogs
if I have to do that.
Oh, no. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure you'll be okay.
Not yet.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Okay, cool. So because you had the absence of animals in your childhood and stuff like that, are you craving that as you move into your adult life that you're designing for yourself? Is it going to be chock full of animals?
I'm not sure entirely, but I definitely love to. I saw these little kittens the other day. I mean, I was in Italy, so I couldn't bring them back, but I desperately wanted to take them, and they were so cute and small. Yeah, I don't think I necessarily realised when I was a child that it's something that I maybe lacked, but I love it now. So I think I'd definitely love to have a few animals, but I'd also like to be able to successfully look after them with the freelance job I have that's kind of drop everything and go somewhere. So maybe I could act with a pet. I don't know. Bring them along.
Oh, right. Okay, fine. Got it. All right then. So as we're wrapping up here, like thinking about this list as a whole, your friends and family, and having a good variety of work with decent space to observe and reflecting on childhood hobbies that you have perhaps left behind or didn't get a chance to indulge in fully, and maybe you will now, and being around animals and having time to spend in nature so that you can acquire a bigger perspective and understand your truth. Is there a way to understand this list cumulatively, and what did you feel preparing a list of stuff that's inspired you, and do you feel like the list is an accurate representation? Have we missed anything out?
I think it's an accurate representation of me now. As I say, maybe in a year's time, well, it probably would be very different as experiences are different and you go through different parts of life. But yeah, I think it's just being true to myself now, which sort of encompasses it all, and being okay with if that changes, and being self-assured that I'm very lucky, like I say, with the people around me, that they'd support me even if I went to try something else or wanted something else with my life. So yeah.
Very cool. Okay, great. All right then. Well, is there anything you're working on at the moment that you want to talk about or can talk about, or is there anything you're excited to work on, or is there anything happening right now that maybe you can talk about? Maybe
I've had quite a lot of footage back from things, which is quite exciting to hopefully start sharing that or create something, a sort of showreel that's up to date and new. No, I actually don't have very much in the pipeline in 2024, so that is exciting. I think I have to tell myself it's exciting. It's not scary that I don't know what I'm doing. But sadly not. I'd love to say, yeah, I've got this and this, but we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
well, we'd love to have you back. Maybe the end of next year, if something crazy happens, we'd love to have you back, and maybe you can tell us about it again and see what you get up to next year. But having that blank canvas is incredibly exciting, so wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. Lovely to chat to
Thanks
you.
so much for being on. Pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the MAKEthrough.studio podcast. It's been episode 2 of season 3 with Alexandra Cook, and what a guest she was. What a beautiful, wonderful conversation we had. Thank you so much to Alexandra for coming on. Please do like, share, follow, comment, subscribe, request alert, and come back next time. Tell your friends as well. Like, if you know some people, some creative people who listen to podcasts and that, tell them about this podcast. Be like, there's this podcast. It's incredible. It's like, it's about creativity and stuff and ideas and inspiration and that. You should listen to it. Do you know what I mean? And I can grow the audience and stuff. More people equals more ideas. We can change the world one idea at a time. You know what I mean? Just got to tell. People just got to know it's there, and then get into do some damage. I think some healthy, useful damage with a few more ears, a few more ear holes pointed at this. It's a weird image, isn't it? But anyway, look, let's wrap this before I get myself in 2 minutes. I'm going to tie myself in knots here trying to end the show. I don't know how to do it yet, but I think all I've got to do is just pull the ripcord and get the hell out of here. So thanks again for listening. Engage online, get the MAKEthrough app, and enjoy the rest of your day. All right. Cheers. Go well.